Mandaluyong, known for its sprawling streets after its transition from a forest and agricultural town into a highly urbanized city found in the heart of Metro Manila. After it was turned into a city development, it started to kick off throughout the city, including many of the business districts and commercial areas seen today. Many of the commercial developments in the city are large known malls such as SM Mega Mall and Shangri-La Plaza. Aside from malls, it is also in Mandaluyong where you can find the headquarters of Asian Development Bank, a regional development bank that has helped the economic development for many aspects not just within the city but the country. Through the city's continuous emergence of supported and possibly one of the contributing factors of how Filipino consumerism emerged in our culture today with its known malls inhabiting the city, it is no surprise that Mandaluyong is dubbed to be the Tiger City of the Philippines. Another notable thing about the city is that back in 2011 as well as 2016, the city was conferred the title of Most Child-Friendly City by the Child-Friendly Local Government Audit, and until today, this child-friendly policy continues to be pursued by the local government. Despite all these achievements, Mandaleños constantly tries to survive the stigma sa loob or sa labas, which is a harmful joke referring if you live within the mental health care or a resident within the city. But with all these, Mandaluyong continues to strive on and reach out to their target demographics, which are also considered as minorities such as children, women, and people with disabilities by providing various programs to extend their assistance, especially with the ones who couldn't afford it, and hopefully erase the harmful stigma that once tainted the city. Moving on, I guess that on their part, it is one step for them to include various programs which extend their support for these minorities, but shouldn't only be the one to reflect the city's ongoing project and what defines them, but also the space that they provide for these target demographics, which led me to my thesis statement. How did I get to that hypothesis? Well, to start, as I mentioned a while back, that through my research, Mandaluyong is a diverse city. It is kind of like a family-friendly city where it strives the need to equally meet its users' ends by catering its spaces for residential, institutional, and commercial zones. With that in mind brings me to one of the reasons why I chose to target demographics and also boosting gains in the city in line with the consumerism culture they're going for by also including local businesses owners in the narrative. Personally, I have observed a lot of things going on within the city. One is that there are a lot of children playing outside in the streets, going as far as using one street to another as a connection to play tennis or basketball, or even sit on a curb to play mobile games. Another is that they do these right in front of sari-sari stores or where street vendors usually stay for a while before they move on to the next street for their daily routes. Lastly, there are little to no guardians observing where these children are. I thought about these connections and somehow aligned them together to form a statement that would hopefully be a solution for these safe spaces and also empower the poor and make economic growth more inclusive and sustainable. But you're probably asking me, how does it promote mobility and accessibility? As you can see from Mandaluyong zoning map, there is a trend of commercial and institutional spaces being located along major roads and occasionally on arteries. This is called the ribbon development planning, which provides easy access for users and transportation systems since it reduces travel time to go to major structures. By locating the main hubs of the project in these areas, it can attract and diversify different transportation systems and also introduce different activities for different age groups which are unique to the area. Not only could it provide alternate ways to get from one place to another without the use of vehicles and extend the demographics to diverse users, but by strategically locating the main hubs in places like these can boost local mobile vendors' exposure and ensure their safety at the same time. Though the question is it possible? According to Wang in 2013, their study observes the Taiwanese city of Hsinchu to analyze the reasons why their municipal government was able to successfully relocate these street vendors into a thriving public market in one instance, which is the Zulian market, while unable to replicate this success in another instance, which is the Guangdong market. And it's because Zulian market was studied where to relocate these street vendors by bringing them to places where their target market is. Street vendor relocating processes faces three major barriers, which is ill-conceived location, bureaucratic conformity, and customer-based laws. Another study by Azzarello in 2016, which states that integrating various types of vegetation as an element in these spaces, for this instance, a school garden, can positively influence children's capacity of attention and improve their cognitive development. So with these case studies presented, I shaped it around my designs and hopefully bring my thesis statement into justice, which is this. As you can see here is an isometric view of my modular design. So here's the core of my project. We could name it as Pocket Park that mainly focuses on areas for small activities, a space for street or mobile vendors, and an ample space to introduce vegetation in the area, which you can say is the main focus of my thesis statement. These three are influenced by my core iteration, which is the Green Street, Neighborhood Park, and Linear Park. Though they might differ in size and in look, they all just adapted the Pocket Park design elements but reimagined in different locations. So the first thing we're exploring here is the core iteration, which will be the pocket parks located in 144 Dr. Fabella Street and in Bonnie Avenue. These are their both current uses, and I think that we could agree that the one located in 144 Dr. Fabella Street is more of an intimate pocket park as it is catered more for its residents than the ones located in Bonnie Avenue, which is mixed user demographics such as residents from the street and commuters coming in and out of the city. Anyways, I mentioned that this space in Dr. Fabella Street is ideal for a pocket park because not only it's ideal for the target demographics in the area such as children, families, senior citizens, and street vendors, but also provides ease of access to the next neighborhood artery that introduces gathering and communing within the area. I've included elements such as where street vendors can park for their stalls for a bit, spaces for children to use their imagination and introduce their own activities that they want suitable for their space, and also a rest area where family members or guardians can watch over their kids. Another thing I like to mention is that large trees are optional in these kinds of spaces, especially if the adjacent buildings provide enough shade rather than trees which can hinder their growth in these tight areas. So those are the design elements I'd like to apply in different iterations that we'll see in a bit. Another pocket park that I like to include in this narration is the one located in Bonnie Avenue. It basically has the same design elements we've talked about in Dr. Fabella Street, but adjusted and added some that are unique to the area, such as including larger trees to provide shade to pedestrians, a waiting area since it's facing Bonnie Avenue, a major road where public transport usually passes by, and by also incorporating a specific type of activity where children can play so that it doesn't crowd the curvature area for activity. So yeah, taking those into consideration, I also formulated 3 more iterations that I could do within the city, such as this linear park located in Pasig River, highlighting the element would be more of a buffer area for communal space and smaller activities for children. It also includes an element for the pocket park in Dr. Fabella, which adapts to its smaller types of vegetation. I'd like to mention that there's no space for vendors to stay, as it is just a buffer space where people would not really stay as long as, let's say, pocket park and neighborhood parks. Which brings us to the discussion of the neighborhood park, which is basically a pocket park but with less restrictions on the elements, where users are introduced to more flexible spaces where they could spend more time on. It's located at the center of my city circle, which is also initially a park. So since this is a place where users can stay as long as they want, I'd include a playground facility, public restroom facilities, open area for more spaces where street vendors can stay or use it as a mixed activity area, art installation areas, and also waiting area for pedestrians. All in all, I think the space I catered here suggests to users that this place is where they could freely relax with the convenience of being on the drop-off point or pick-up point of public transportation. Lastly, this iteration is on San Francisco Street, which initially is a major road that was slightly installed with bike lanes. So I took the advantage of that installation by creating a more welcoming place for bikers and also pedestrians to pass through, since it's still dominated by cars. So a green street usually has this criteria, such as the space should be a linear corridor provides access for pedestrians and cyclists to navigate a section of urban area with uninterrupted access. And by incorporating the main element I had for the pocket park, I ended up with this design. It's a simple iteration such that it still provides ample space for street vendors to navigate to and from an area, especially next to major roads, and provide a safe space to pass through for the target demographics such as women, children, and people with disabilities. Based on the factors determining on-site perception of ecosystem services and the services from street trees in a densely urbanized area, a study by Kayata in 2021, it is also well known that there is a satisfaction for the users when they see street trees in spaces that by using one type of local tree can have the chance, in theory, that the users will perceive the place having a certain type of character and indication that the street is welcoming for pedestrians, bikers, and also vehicles that pass through. With these concludes my research, and personally, I do think accomplishes the agenda that I initially came up with, that these spaces also act as a gateway for mobility and accessibility for the target demographics of the area, and hopefully provide safer spaces for these users to navigate to and from an area, and with it, can introduce different opportunities, be it through modes of transportations emerging in the future, or a boost in the economy by helping local businesses through exposure, or maybe both.